Today we're going to learn how to make a site plan in MapWashtenaw. First, we'll find our site, then we'll mark it up, and finally we'll export a PDF of the results. Please note, these results are going to look very different based on your particular site or situation. If you already know where your site is in MapWashtenaw, you can zoom in on it by using the scroll wheel on your mouse or using the zoom buttons here in the top left corner of the screen. If you don't know where your site is, you can use the search box in the top right corner. If we go ahead and type in our address and then hit enter, we'll get a result in the left panel over here. Click on the result to fly to that address. If you don't want to see the full feature details here, you can click on the X to close the panel. The yellow marks on the map are all from the search results over here. If you no longer want to see them, you can click on the Clear Results button here in the toolbar. To better understand your site, you'll probably want to turn on a few more layers. You can click on Base Maps in the bottom left corner here to switch to our aerial imagery. Currently, our most recent is March 2024. If your site is in the Ann Arbor area, we do have a couple of their aerials which are a little more recent, but they do not cover the entire county. So we'll turn on the March 2024 for now, and we can see it on our map. If you're looking for other layers, go ahead and click on the Layers tab here, and you can search for them by typing in the text box. So for example, if I want to see contours, I can start typing contour and then checking on the one I want. Please note, if a layer is within a group, you'll want to make sure that both of these are checked. You'll want to make sure both of these checkboxes are checked. Now we can see the contours on our map. If you want to search for building footprints, you can type those in here as well. You can see it doesn't necessarily have all buildings, like some of the barns aren't in the layer. So I'm going to leave this off for now because we have the aerial on. We also have drains, so if I click on that, you can see that county drains are turned on, but the higher group isn't, so I have to check that. Now we can see the county drains on the map and the right-of-way. I'll uncheck that for now because it's not near my property. If you want to get back to the full layer list, just click on the X here and we'll see all of it. So for example, I don't need to see the parcel addresses because I'm only making a map of the one property. So if I turn off the parcel addresses, they're no longer on the map. I'll go ahead and turn the contours off too, so I have an easier time marking up my map. I'm also going to turn off the PLSS system. That's the sections and quarter sections that we can see on the map in green. That's under parcel related features, and I'll uncheck the group here for PLSS. All right, so let's get started marking up our map. If we look at the second tab in the toolbar, we can find the markup tools. The first tools here have that little ruler in the icon. They are the measurement tools. These tools will have labels for the distance and area of the shape you draw. If you don't want these labels, then just use the drawing markup tools down here. You can see these icons have little black arrows in the bottom. That means they're a grouping of more tools. So if I click into them, I can see more tools for that group. If you want to go back, just click on the X here to go back. So let's start with drawing in this little pond on the property. I'll click Draw Markup. I'll use the polygon tool, and you can either do single clicks, so you'll have flat sides, or for this pond, if I click, hold, and drag, I can get a freehand shape, so it'll more accurately depict the pond. Now when you're done, just let up on the mouse and double click to finish. If it starts drawing another shape like this, just click on the X to stop. When you see this orange bar at the top of the screen, it means the tool you are using has a repeat action. This means I could just keep drawing shapes without having to reselect the tool, but as I only want the one shape here, I'll just click on the X to finish. Now let's go on and draw the buildings. You can see my shape was blue here, but if I want all my buildings to look a certain way, I can go ahead and change that default style to something else, so I don't have to change them individually later. So I'll click on Change Polygon Style here, and we can see that default blue. I'll change it to something else. Let's say really dark gray and maybe the fill to a lighter gray. I'll click OK. I just want it to be a solid color, but you could have hatches in the fill if you'd like. So I'm happy with that. Let's go back to drawing the buildings. If you want, you can use the rectangle tool, which will give you 90-degree corners. If I just click and without holding it, start drawing the shape, once I click again, I'll have a perfect rectangle here, and you can see it uses the new symbology. Now, if you want to pan the map and you have a tool currently selected, you can hold down the spacebar and pan around the map without starting another shape. Now, the rectangle tool won't really work here for this building, so I will finish the shape I'm drawing here by exiting out of the repeat. I'll use the polygon tool instead, so I'll have flat sides, and I will trace this building. There we go, double click to finish that one, and I can go ahead and draw the other one because that repeat action is still enabled. I'll double click to finish, and I'm all done. Now, if you aren't happy with your shapes, you can go back and edit them without having to completely delete and remake them. If we go into the Edit Markup group here, we could delete all of them if we wanted to. That's going to delete both your drawings and your measurements, but I'll click on Edit Markup and I can select the ones I want to change. It gives you a little crosshair under your cursor and you can use that to select the shape. You can also use it to select multiple features at once if you click, hold, and drag so that the selection box intersects different markups. So I could use this to edit the style of these two buildings together. You can see maybe I'll change the line color to a bright blue or something. Then click OK. If I don't want to keep this, I can just click undo or cancel. If I wanted to, I could delete both of these features together, but I'll just click cancel so I keep them. If you want to adjust how your shape was drawn, you can use that Edit Markup tool to select it. And then you can use these control points here to either scale it larger or smaller. You could rotate it with the little circle at the top. Or you can click on each of the vertices here to change the shape. So I can try to make these a little bit more level. Maybe scoot this one over a little bit. When you're all done, I'll hit complete to save it. If you needed to, you could break a side here to get more edges. But if I don't want to keep this change, I can just click undo to undo it. There's another thing you can do with the Edit Markup tool here. You can type in the exact dimensions of the shape that you want. So say you know the exact dimensions of this barn. Maybe it's supposed to be 40 feet. You can type 40 in here and notice it also changed the height because we have this little padlock enabled. So it's going to scale the other measurement based on the drawing we originally made to keep it proportional. But if you want to edit the dimensions independently of each other, you can unlock it and then say, even if you change this to a 35, it still says 40 up here. It doesn't keep them proportional to each other. So once you're happy, just click on complete. And now let's add some more shapes on our map. I'll just navigate to the top here so we can draw in the driveway. This is a pretty unusual shape, so we're going to go ahead and use the polygon tool as a freehand tool again. So I can just click, hold, and drag to get this shape and trace the driveway. And that's about it. When I'm done, I'll just double click to finish it. And this isn't an actual building, so I'll want to change the symbology so it looks different than the buildings. So if I go to Edit Markup and select this new shape, I can change its style. Maybe let's give it a dashed outline because it's not an actual structure. And lighten the outline a little bit because it doesn't have walls. All right, now it looks quite different than the buildings. One of the other shapes you can draw on the map are points. You can just drop these on the map wherever you want them, And if you want to edit them, you can just click on them, or if that's difficult, you can just click, hold, and drag to make that little box to select it. Now, if you go into style, we have a few marker styles we can choose from. Unfortunately, it isn't as many as we had in the old MapWashtenaw, but the vendor's looking to add them all back in at some point. We can change various things like the size and the color here. Let's see, a big red X marks a spot. And perhaps I'll just delete the other one. All right, so for the last thing we want to draw, let's say there's a certain distance we know it's off the back of the structure. So we can use the distance tool from the measurement tools, and it will tell us how long our drawing is. If we know it's right off the building, we could turn on snapping here so that our cursor changes and we can see that it kind of snags on the end of the building here. So when you want to connect it here, you can get it to lock on and then start drawing. Now when I hover out further from the structure, we can see a dynamic label showing us the distance. Once it's about 50 feet here, we can just double click to finish the drawing. If you want to make it more exact, you can go back into the Edit Markup tool, select that shape, and then like we did before, we can type in the exact distance we want, so say 50 feet. Hit complete, and then you can see the label has also updated to 50 feet. Now we could draw another shape off of here, but as you can see, not all shapes can use the snapping tool. So if we want to snap to the end of this measurement, we'll have to use the polygon tool. Double click to finish and close out of the tool. I'll go ahead and change how this one looks so it doesn't look like a structure. Let's give it a different style here. Maybe we'll do the cross hatching and make it a bold color so we can really see it. Click OK and complete. And if the measurement is in the way, we do have the option to hide the labels here. This button will toggle between hiding and showing labels. If you don't need this at all, we can just go ahead and use the Edit Markup tool to delete that measurement. All right, when you're happy with your map, let's go ahead and print it for everyone. So let's just go back to a blank base map. If we click on the base maps button down here, we have the option to choose hill shade, which just shows a little bit of shading for elevation. Or we also have no base map, which is just a white background. So I'll leave it on this one for now. And let's zoom to the property because that's what we're interested in printing. And you could go ahead and print this, but one more thing I want to add is some labels. So, oops, I still have snapping enabled, so let's turn that off so I can add my text. And I'll go into drawing markups, and there's a separate text tool. You can either enter in the exact coordinates that you want this text to appear at, or like I usually do, you can just select on the map. You'll have a little crosshair under your cursor, so you can just drop it anywhere. You can move it again later if you'd like to, and we can add in our information now. So if I wanted to note that this was a house, I could just type that in. You do have some automatic values you could do here, like the coordinates of that location or the parcel that it intersects. You can grab some of the parcel attributes like the pin or the address to have those quickly added as labels in your map. If you expand the display options down here, we have some font choices, color choices, etc. So I'll just click done. Please note there isn't a way to currently hide this little anchor point yet. So unfortunately, that will still be in the map. That point's denoting the coordinate if you had placed the location note at a specific XY location. If you want to move this text after you've placed it, you can go into Edit Markup, and there's a specific tool just for that. If you click on Move Text and then click on the anchor point, you can move it around the map. So I'll just put the label next to the house here, and I'll click Complete. You can also add text to the map by just right-clicking anywhere and say Add Location Note. And if you right click on text that's on the map, you can select Edit Location Note so you can change what it says. Once you're happy with that, we'll go ahead and print. That's a tool that's on the first tab in the toolbar, and it's the third tool here. I'll hit print, and you have some choices. For instance, for print type, we'll just want a single map because we're just doing a site plan versus grid or line would be a series of maps. For our layout, the 8.5 by 11 portrait works well for this property because it's so vertical. And we have our little print preview here on the screen, so we can just pan the map around to center our property. All right, we definitely want a PDF, and now you can choose your print scale. If you need to print at a particular scale, there's a little guide at the bottom here telling you which is which. So for example, if I chose 480, we can see that that is 1 inch equals 40 feet. Now, in this case, I just want to show the whole property, so I'm going to need something that's larger. Let's say about there. If you want, you can lock this print preview so you can pan around the map if you needed to. I would recommend expanding this layout fields option here. So you can add a map title. I could say my site plan. And then there's room for at least a couple sentences of notes on the PDF. When you're happy with that, go ahead and print. We do have this new tab on the print tool here for print history. If you've created a few PDFs in your current browser session, you should be able to see them here so that you can re-download the PDFs without having to remake them. If you wanted to, you could use the map only print option here, or there's an export map tool up here in the toolbar. And that would be a print that doesn't have things like the legend, which is found in landscape templates, or the scale bar or title. So once your print is done and you want to see it, just click on the PDF icon here or the text. Don't click on the black icon here because that's going to be a log file for how the print tool worked. And you can see it opens in the new tab in my browser. We can see the title and the notes I added to this. We have the scale bar. We have an overview map for where this is in the county. And this may look different based on what your default PDF viewer is, but in mine, I can download this to a PDF file, or I can send it straight to the printer. If you need to print your map at a particular scale, please make sure that you're printing it at actual size so that your scale bar isn't warped as the printer's trying to stretch or shrink it to fit a page. Another thing I wanted to mention is how to look up well and septic records from the county website. When you're on the county website, which is just washtenaw.org, you can hover over How Do I, and then under Search, there is Well and Septic Records. Click on that and it will take you to the page. Scroll down here and you'll have the search options on the left side. I would recommend just starting with the street number. So let's say 8971 here, and then you can search. Because you may not type it in exactly as it's abbreviated or written over here. If you were to type in the full street name, this will give you the most options. When you find the one you're interested in, you can click on the document icon here, and it will open the records. If you want to see it in its own screen, because it's a little squished here on the county's website, you can click on this icon up here to open it in a new tab. And here you go.